In early June of 1821, a scientist by the name of Richard Chambers was being escorted by a friend through the countryside near Blandford, England. As the carriage traveled the dark road through a marsh, he noticed a peculiar luminous light traveling alongside the carriage about 30 meters away. This strange ghost-like apparition would dance and meander up and down 1 to 2 meters above the ground, and it lasted for about 5 minutes. As a scientist, Mr. Chambers was very intrigued by this strange light. He had never seen anything quite like it. His friend, however, who traveled the road often, stated that he had witnessed this strange phenomenon once before. He stated that when traveling the same road during the same circumstance early in the morning during the same time last year, he observed one, but during that instance, the light was even closer. He told Mr. Chambers that it was a rare natural phenomenon known as a will-o'-the-wisp. Will-o'-the-wisps are one of the most enigmatic phenomena known. They go by many names, including jack-o'-lantern, hinky punk, and foolish flame. There are hundreds of stories from all over the world that describe a very similar natural phenomenon. In Australian folklore, for example, touching one will make you disappear. In Bangladesh, they are known as the Elia, and following them is said to lead to a sudden death. In Swedish folklore, these strange lights are unbaptized souls who guide you to water in hopes of you baptizing them. But scientifically speaking, what is going on? Are will-o'-the-wisps even real? Well, that's what we aim to answer in today's video. And we're not just talking about the will-o'-the-wisp. No. We're gonna go over a ton of different strange orb-like phenomena.
Right there.
We're going to talk about earthquake lights. We're going to talk about everyone's favorite ball lightning. We're going to talk about the brown mountain lights.
There, look at that. Look at that. What you got? I got a blue. Ooh.
We're going to talk about ghost lights, aka spook lights.
We're still waiting to hear exactly what those lights are.
It's going to be a crazy video, full of a bunch of weird things, half of which may or may not exist, but maybe they do. That's what we're talking about. Let's get into it. But before we get to that, a quick word from today's video sponsor, MyHeritage. MyHeritage is the leading #1 global service for family history research and DNA testing. Starting is easy. You go to the website, you create your account, and you start building your family tree, which is honestly extremely fun. I started out adding a few key members like my grandparents, and I instantly started getting matches, and you can then look at the matches and confirm them, and then extract that information and photos directly to your family tree. It's pretty awesome. I've literally spent hours working on my family tree. Check it out. Every time I discover a distant relative, it was like unlocking a piece of my own past. MyHeritage also has a database of 19+ billion historical documents that can be easily searched, and sometimes MyHeritage will find matching historical documents for you automatically. There's also this really cool feature called Instant Discoveries. I clicked on it and it turns out I already had relatives who created an entire branch of our family tree, so it automatically just added a ton of family members. You can also enhance old photos and even animate them. It's pretty sweet. Scan this QR code or use the link in the description to sign up for a 14-day free trial and enjoy the amazing features MyHeritage has to offer. Thank you so much to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. So let's go back to the will-o'-the-wisp. What on earth is going on? Are they even real? Kind of. There are actually lots of natural processes that could indeed create a similar phenomenon. Now, I for one do believe they exist. I don't think they're dancing fairies or, ghosts or UFOs. I don't believe any of that. But I do believe that there is some sort of real scientific natural phenomenon at play that has historically been referred to as the will-o'-the-wisp. The reason I believe is you have reports historically from all over the world, and 75% of all these reports claim that these weird lights happen in marshes or in swamps. Whether that's in Asia or Europe or in America, they all have that common denominator. So there must be something naturally occurring in swamps and marshes. Like, for example, this phenomenon could be related to swamp gas. You have all sorts of plant life going on in swamps, and it's all wet. And when things are wet, they decompose very quickly, and then that can release loads of methane gas. Methane is flammable, so on a rare occasion, perhaps a swamp gas bubble goes up into the air, and somehow it combusts and makes a little flame. And people thought that those were will-o'-the-wisps. Well, many skeptics of the marsh gas theory state that gases wouldn't spontaneously combust. Like, there might be a bubble, but that bubble would just pop. Like, what would cause it to catch on fire? So there must be some other mechanism at play. Well, one man by the name of F. Ramsbotham would often notice will-o'-the-wisps occurring near his house before and during thunderstorms. He always saw them in 2 different areas, and that they would last approximately 10 minutes. He also noted that they were mostly stationary, but they would occasionally sweep downward. Perhaps an unstable atmosphere / low atmospheric pressure pulls these gases out of the ground, and then maybe there's some electric currents in the atmosphere, and somehow those ignite these gas bubbles. It's just a theory. We do know where he witnessed these lights. He witnessed them at the old mill in Crowborough, Warren, Sussex, England. So someone should go set up a camp before a thunderstorm and bring a camera. And also a drone. I don't know if you've ever seen this famous footage of ghosts at Gettysburg. It's kind of one of the most iconic ghost footage pieces of all time, just because it looks so realistic. But to me, this kind of looks, will-the-wispy-esque-ish. That could be an explanation for this footage. Another explanation for what people have perceived to be will-the-wisps in the past could be insects. Perhaps you've seen a lightning bug, aka a firefly. Well, these are insects that flicker while mating using a process known as bioluminescence. A few historic instances of will-the-wisps have been described as a bunch of smaller glowing lights coming together making one large ball. Perhaps these balls are just swarms of lightning bugs. Like, those fish that swim around in groups, you know what I'm talking about? Perhaps the lightning bugs were doing something like that, and from a distance, someone squinting, looks like a little floating ghost.
Here you go.
I got something glowing up there. See it right there?
Oh yeah, I see it. I see it.
Right there?
Damn, look at that thing. It's glowing like hell.
Yeah, right down there.
Oh, I see it right there.
Mushrooms can also glow in the dark, and one could think of an instance where a coyote or some bird or animal picks up a glowing piece of fungus and then walks around or flies around, and then again from a distance you look over and you see this glowing thing moving all around, and you're like, and I know, you may be like, okay Jake, if these were so common back in the day, why are there hardly any reports today? We have cell phones, we have cameras, anyone could easily post a picture on Facebook and, people would freak out, but there are no photos, so what's going on? Well, there's actually an explanation for that. Over the past 100 years, marshes and swamps near cities have been reclaimed for a number of purposes, most prominently farmland. The marshy fenlands, for example, in eastern England were a common place to see will-o'-the-wisp back in the day. But most of the fenlands have been transformed into farmland. You can't make money off of a swamp, so you gotta drain the swamp. I also think that light pollution plays a major role. It's possible that the phenomenon responsible for will-o'-the-wisp sightings is like super faint. And back in the day, people could see faint things floating around because there was no light pollution. But today, we just have so much light pollution everywhere that there's no chance of seeing anything like that. So that could also play a role. While will-o'-the-wisp do have a slight scientific explanation, the next lights are a little more mysterious. These are referred to as ghost lights or spook lights. One historic example is the Esperanza Light in Texas. Within LaSalle County, Texas folklore, many have told stories of strange glowing lights that often appear over Esperanza Creek. The light is said to be about the size and brightness of a headlight. It meanders 3 feet above the creek during all weather conditions all throughout the year. Sometimes this light leaves the creek and travels throughout the surrounding countryside, but it always finds its way back to the water. One of the well-known stories involving the light comes from a man by the name of Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris was obsessed with the light. He would go out all the time looking for it. Oftentimes he would never see anything. But he did claim to all of his friends, if he did see the Esperanza light, he was going to chase it down with his horse. And one night, he just happened to have that opportunity. And so he chased down the light. However, the next day, Mr. Morris apparently was all shooken up and he refused to talk about the event. People would come up and be like, yo, what happened? And he would just be like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, it's just some crazy local legend stuff. Now, I looked for this creek and it took a long time to find. I didn't Google it. I just looked in LaSalle County, Texas until I found it, naturally. So, it probably would have been quicker if I just Googled it, but it was more fun this way. Anyway, it is a very obscure creek. Overall, I think the Esperanza light is just some local folklore, considering the light has not been seen for several years. One of the most prominent examples of ghost lights are the ones that occur on Brown Mountain Ridge in North Carolina. The Brown Mountain lights are very intriguing. These lights have been reported since the early 20th century. Sometimes they're up in the sky, sometimes they move all around and zigzag back and forth through the forests. However, most of the time they appear near the ridge of a mountain. They peek out from the other side and then slowly move downward, sometimes in a series of 4 or 5 lights. The trees near the light often light up, so they're definitely quite bright. They've been known to occur on other Appalachian mountains as well. And they appear all year, but it seems that September and October are when they are most prominent. Those who witness the lights describe them to be reddish or white, and they say they usually last about 30 to 60 seconds. There are so many theories about what could be causing the lights. Of course, there's the will-o'-the-wisp-esque theories from released gas igniting. Some people say UFOs. There's also many local ghost stories about, oh, you know, that girl, she died on the train tracks and now her ghost haunts the mountain. They have lots of that kind of stuff. But by far the most popular theory deals with reflected lights from cars or trains. They coincidentally started appearing right when cars and trains became mainstream. All the stories of Brown Mountain lights begin around 1910. Historically, they would appear at very specific times that some researchers have noted match up with train schedules. So, obviously, it's got to be a train or something, right? However, there is still a strange mystery to these lights. While many sightings can be explained by reflected car lights or train lights, some are honestly unexplainable. Respectable researchers and skeptics have studied these lights and have concluded that not every light can be fully explained. But while they were filming a National Geographic documentary, these guys actually captured a weird bluish red light on camera. So do you see these lights right here? These are Brown Mountain lights. So they're already looking at Brown Mountain lights, but then while they're filming these Brown Mountain lights, this weird light over here pops up. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's kind of spooky. Folks from Appalachian State University set up 2 cameras in 2014 and have recorded thousands and thousands of hours of unexplainable ghost lights. Something weird is indeed going on, but my question is, where's the drone footage? They have all these Brown Mountain lights viewing areas. Can someone please just bring a drone and then the moment they appear, you know, fly it to the light, see what it is? Someone please go do that. Thank you. Another explanation for the Brown Mountain lights could be that they are a type of earthquake light. Earthquake lights are a rare natural phenomenon where strange bright lights and flashes can be seen in areas of high tectonic stress. While not fully understood, some theories suggest that ions are being released from stressed rocks below the surface that then make their way up, enter into the atmosphere, and ionize the surrounding oxygen, giving it kind of a blue glow. This is due to a natural phenomenon known as piezoelectrics. When crystals like quartz are under stress, they can create an electric charge that can then reach the surface and again ionize the air. The Appalachian Mountains do have seismic activity, so that could be a possibility. However, while there are a few scientific explanations that could, cause these lights, it's likely that a majority of the sightings are indeed caused by surrounding city lights. And that's because many other spook lights have been fully debunked due to this. The Hornet light near Joplin, Missouri, turns out that was just car lights. The Pauldine light up in the UP of Michigan also has been proven to be just an optical illusion caused by distant headlights. A few other ghost lights worth mentioning are the Min lights in Australia, the Saratoga Ghost light in Texas, and the Marfa Lights, also in Texas. The Marfa Lights are a little more interesting because there have been proven incidents that were not at all related to traffic lights. Sometimes they go on and off, and sometimes they even dance around. The most popular theory when it comes to Marfa Lights again goes back to piezoelectrics. So there's a bunch of igneous rocks beneath the Mitchell Flat, which has a bunch of methane deposits, and people think an electric charge goes up through the rocks and then mixes with that methane, and you get the Marfa Lights. By the way, Texas has a ton of these weird ghost lights, so maybe it's just a Texas thing. We gotta move on, and no video about unusual orb ghost-like phenomena could exist without mentioning ball lightning. I've talked about ball lightning before, but it bears repeating as ball lightning truly is one of the strangest natural electrical phenomena known. So what is ball lightning? Well, during thunderstorms, many have experienced seeing a ball of staticky light, like an orb of plasma, if you will, that then slowly moves all over the place. It's not like typical lightning that only lasts a split second. No, ball lightning can last a long time, sometimes up to several minutes. Some stories tell of the orbs eventually exploding, while other stories have the orbs just fizzle out. Some say ball lightning is attracted to the indoors. So if the ball lightning starts out in a field, it will try to come inside. People say it will go through windows, it will go down chimneys. I'm not joking, ball lightning is crazy, if it even exists. And even though there's not much evidence, even though we only have a few verified photos, it probably does exist because there are just tons and tons of reported sightings from all over the world. And let's talk about some reported sightings. In England, on November 10th, 1940, an E. Matz observed what seems to be ball lightning in Coventry, England. I was working at the far end of my garden. The weather was normal. No rain, no signs of thunder. Suddenly, I seemed to be at the center of intense blackness. And looking down, I observed at my feet a ball about 2 feet across. It was of a pale blue-green color and seemed to be made out of withering strings of light, about 1/4 inch in diameter. It remained there for about 3 seconds and then rose away from me, just missed a poplar tree about 3 feet away. It cleared the house by 20 feet and landed at the rear end of the Weaver's Arms on Belgreen Road, a distance of about 1/4 mile. There was then a loud explosion and much damage was done to the public house. This case is interesting because it does state a real life location, and I did find this real life location, the Weaver's Arms pub on Green Road, but there's no photos of the damage. I looked everywhere. Worth noting, there was a major earthquake in Romania on that same day. A pretty violent one, measuring 7.7 on the Richter scale. Perhaps somehow that could be related. You know, you got a little tectonic stress. I don't know. Maybe there's like a weird system of tunnels under England, and every time there's an earthquake anywhere in the world, somehow it goes through the tunnels to England, and that's why there's so many ball lightning sightings in the UK. Another possible case of ball lightning comes from the US in Burlington, Vermont on July 2nd, 1907. This case is crazy because it apparently exploded and rocked the entire town, and there were lots of eyewitnesses. One eyewitness said this: "I was standing in my store door facing the north. My attention was attracted by this ball of fire, apparently descending toward a point on the opposite side of the road, in front of the Hall Furniture Store. When within 18 or 20 feet of the tiled ground, the ball exploded with a deafening sound." Several other eyewitnesses tell the exact same story in front of the exact same store, which to me makes this scenario one of the stronger cases of ball lightning. I did get on Google Maps and I did find the exact location of that furniture store. It was in this building right here, so the ball lightning exploded somewhere around here or maybe over here. I don't know, but definitely a crazy story. In my previous video about ball lightning, there were several people in the comments who mentioned seeing ball lightning in their past. Fizzy Grizzy said, "I'm from America. I saw ball lightning while walking through a small eucalyptus forest. It was just above the trees, but I could hear buzzing. I couldn't smell anything but burning eucalyptus though." Tactical Matt Foley stated this: "Ball lightning is a legendary in the American South. We had close friends that are very reliable, church-going folks who swear ball lightning went through their window, floated above their living area, and disappeared into a wall, leaving nothing behind. They stated it was the size of a soccer ball." WS said, "Back in the 1970s, a childhood friend of mine and I were watching a football game at his parents' house when we heard a pop sound over the TV. It was a ball lightning / golden orb of plasma, about 12 inches in diameter. It started to drift towards us as we jumped out of its way in astonishment. 'What the F was that?' we said, as it drifted past us for another 8 feet, and then pop, it was gone. I recall that it left an ionized smell in the air." So this is an interesting story, and this might kind of explain why ball lightning is rarely seen these days. He mentioned that he was watching TV, or he and his friend were watching TV. Back in the day, we had like crazy electronics with tubes and all sorts of crazy things. Now all of our electronics are super small and compact. And if we go back to even the Burlington, Vermont story, here's the store where it happened, this brick store right here. Look at those like massive wire poles. We had electric stuff everywhere, so maybe ball lightning was attracted to all these electronics, and that's why people witnessed it more back in the day. I don't know. There are so many stories of ball lightning, enough to make it seem like this could be a legit natural phenomenon. What do you think of all these strange nocturnal ghost lights? Do you believe that any of these exist, or are they just fun stories? Let me know in the comments. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.